Yeah, my name is Malar. I run an organization called Hearts and Minds Development Center. We specialize in emotional intelligence training. So I think that's a little bit about us. And yeah, you can find me on LinkedIn to know more. Sangeeta, I'm really very grateful for this opportunity and the topic actually, because one of those things that stirs my heart in the recent event of COVID-19 is the fact that I'm not too sure. I mean, I think a lot of us are still in denial that when this is over and whenever this is over, life will be back to normal, right? And that bugs me a lot, because I think yes, life is going to be normal, but it's going to be a new normal, and we're not talking about it, right? And so, thank you so much for giving us this platform to vent.
Pleasure. All right, Dr. Alia, your turn. We can't hear you. We can't hear you. Tak ada. Okay. No, 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 no.
Okay?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Can you hear me? All right, good. Sorry about that. Yeah, good morning, everyone. I'm Alia. I was heading an organization mostly from the private to the government to a non-profit for over 22 years now. And recently, I have just stepped down, not in line with COVID-19, but coincidentally, it was the same time. And last week was actually my last week with the organization that I have been very passionate with. So I'm still in touch with them, despite the fact that I have left simply because I have 150 over of them who are actually frontliners. I was in the medical line. But on the same topic with Sangeeta and agreeing with Mala is, I think there have been a lot of requests and a lot of calls for companies now as I speak to them, saying that how do they prepare? What's going to happen, which none of us know what's going to happen. But generally, I have started to map out plans for some organizations that I'm helping out with in terms of coming back to the workforce, going back to work, going back into the, trying to fit in back to the daily life. I think there's a lot of buzz out there. I agree with Mala that people are not seeing the big picture of what has happened. COVID has made the future happen so much faster. That's what it has made. And we are not talking about just merely change. Everyone's saying that, it's going to be a lot of change, it's going to be a lot of change. We are accelerating actually, not just the normal change. So I'm keen to hear, learn, understand from everyone else, as well as share my thoughts on, moving forward from today's conversations. So thanks, Ankita.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so I'm just going to go and then we're just going to have conversation as how we always does for the past 5 days. And, all right.
No holds barred.
Okay. Hello, everyone from Vivian. Hi, Vivian. Okay, so we always listen and even with the government's plan to assist organization and to assist employees and all that, we always ask employer to empathize, okay? Because if you see anywhere, you say, okay, employer, you need to empathize, you should remain the organization, you should do it. So it's, for me, I'm one of the employer also, right? When I'm listening all this, yes, I'm applying a lot of it, but at times I feel that, it's unfair because we have to carry everything. We have to look at everything. So like for me, I have a small operation, so I'm okay with that. But, if it's prolonged, it might affect my organization. But what about organizations who have more than 50 employees, who have more than 100 employees? How do you go about this? So can we have Dato' Alia first to share this?
Well, I think that's the buzz out there of how do you go back to work? What are employers supposed to do? What are employees supposed to do? And I think we have had so many of these conversations the past 1 to 2 weeks. Employers are really, I'm listening from both sides. Employers are merely asking, all sorts of questions. Of course, you have very good, kind-hearted employers who want to know how do you move on? How do you be fair to all the employees? How do you take, when you go back, what do you actually do? I mean, where do you start? And, everyone knows it's not going to be good news. It's not bonus time. You're not going to go back and hear somebody say, guess what, we're offering you bonus. Well, good luck if you think you're going to hear that, But I think the reality has set in that it's difficult. We are going through a very different change. Straightforward, to answer your question, I would say employers need to go back, and the first thing that you need to do is have a town hall. I think you need to be very honest, and explain three things. One, you need to explain what was the organization doing in the past. Okay, how were you in the past? What was the organization about? What were the vision, mission? Where did you go? How well did you do, or how well you did not do, etc., etc. What is it at present? Okay, so look at it now and say what is it in the present. When I say present, I'm referring to when you go back to work. Okay, if you're having conversations now, Zoom sessions with your staff, Skype sessions with your staff, I think you more or less, 80% you are going to gauge and say what's happening now at present. Meaning you have some plans in place, etc., etc. Okay, you have lost sales and marketing, have not been able to go out. So you've probably lost sales for 2 months. You probably, can't open shop if you are running a store in a mall or something like that. And if you're an import-export business, lagi lah you kena, okay? But I think you also then need to talk about the future, which you can't plan 100%. It's impossible because you really don't know, what's out there when you actually or eventually go out. Firstly, if everyone's getting ready to go back to work on Monday, I wish you all the best because I doubt you're going to go back to work on Monday. It's literally, some people are saying 2 weeks, 3 weeks, maybe a month even. So what's going to happen then is something that you got to, address as and when you reach there with a plan A, a plan B, a plan C. From that point of view, from an employee's point of view, I think you probably did not know the entire past of the organization. If you were a normal employee, then, for you, every day is going in, doing what you're supposed to do, getting a paycheck at the end of the month, getting involved in their monthly activities, etc., etc. I think it's good to prepare a set of questions and find out more about the organization. This is a good time to find out more about the organization. What was the organization all about? How well did it do? What were they actually doing? A little bit more on the organization and look at it from that point of view. Okay, and then now we are talking about the present. What's going to happen to you? If you're just talking about you as an employee, I'm not even going to go the extended version of, the entire family, neighbors and friends and siblings, and I'm not even going to go there. I'm just going to talk about you. As an employee, what's at present? Do you have a job? Are you going to have to take a pay cut? Are you going to have to multitask? Are you going to take over 3 people's roles because your organization is looking at streamlining? Okay. And obviously future. Are you comfortable that this is going to last? Your job is going to be there in the next 6 months, or have honest conversations with the employer to find out what's going to happen to you. And I think employers need to be very brutal about this conversation, not mollycoddle everyone and say it's going to be okay, don't worry, in 6 months, and then after the third month, give a letter and say, we're going to have, you have option A. I think yesterday I heard someone say you have an option A of taking a pay cut, you have option B, and you have option C
Yeah.
of, living on your own and things like that. So I don't think you can put an employee into an option A, option B, option C. I think the employee needs to be put into an employee themselves need to have option A, option B, option C of what they want to do, because it's their rice bowl, it's their life. Yeah. So I think this is from the point of view of going back, you're talking about organizations, I would say, and don't forget this word. Yesterday, I shared this word with quite a few people, this past week who have been calling. And yesterday, I had 2 callers from both pharma company heads. And I said this word called moderator. All right. Because I think if you think you cannot address the situation with your employees, it's a good time you brought in a moderator. Okay. Someone, I'm not saying to cushion the blow, but I'm saying someone who can be realistic, who can be that middle person to pass your message of what it's going to be, how it's going to be that understanding person between employers and employees. So that would be, my take on this for starters, Sagita. Emotional point of view for employees, I give it to my emotional counterpart there.
Thanks. Okay. All right, Malar.
Yeah, good. So it's my turn. Yay. I think, so Sangeeta, you said, you're worried about, larger organizations. Yes and no. I think larger organizations usually have a better buffer for a couple of months to survive.
Yes.
Because they would have accumulated some buffer. I run a very small outfit. I've been in training for more than 20 years. And I can tell you that the smaller organizations who are self-sponsored entrepreneurs, they are going to feel it really very quickly, right? And my heart really goes out to them, because there are some industries, if you haven't made this comes as such a shock that I'm not too sure how they're going to deal with it, right? Now, you mentioned empathy. I think one of those things that I'm seeing in social media, I actually feel very, very, very sorry for employers for a change. Usually, I'm very much on the employee side, because whenever I run training program, I kuto the bosses like nobody's business. But I think yeah, because I realize that, as I read the comments, I read the social media stuff, there's so much of pressure on employer. And when I say employer, I mean people in leadership position. I don't mean the company is just a logo, right?
Yeah.
But the people who are representing the employer, why I feel sorry, because the world is busy telling them what is the ideal best decision, best choice. But they are not saying you need to make the best choice given the current circumstances and current resources. All right, our resources are really limited. All right, and when we talk about empathy, we're talking about empathy for the employee, which is rightly so, but no one is talking about empathy for the employer. All right, relationships are two ways. Yeah, and we cannot say, because you are the employer, it's now your job to look after me. It's my job to look after myself. And I'm so glad that you have been part of that, for you to contribute to my well-being and my contribution to my responsibilities. I think it has to be two ways, number one. Yeah. Number two, I think so. So I think there needs to be empathy. I think this is also a very, very good time. Again, I will talk about denial. A lot of people are in denial because you hear people saying, I hope there won't be pay cuts. I hope there won't be retrenchment. In my small little brain, my small little logical brain, I can't fathom how that's going to happen. Because everything is shrinking. You do have a smaller piece to actually work with. I think our gratitude should be we still have a piece of cake when we go back, right? I think people are not being real. We want other people to make the sacrifice for us to maintain our lifestyle. I think this is a very, very good space to quickly hit rock bottom. I think a lot of people haven't hit rock bottom, or people who have hit rock bottom, I don't see them on social media. right? Because on social media, what are you looking at? How we are having fun, how we are exercising together, how we are cooking different dishes, and there's really nothing wrong with that. Yeah, that simply shows that our life is still very, very good. Yeah, but we also need to realistically look at the people who are posting and saying, I'm going from one Zoom meeting to another Zoom meeting. And usually these are people in leadership position. I don't see anyone hearts going out to them, right, to manage that. I look at people who say, I have been in meetings the whole day while either managing or ignoring my children who are not school going.
Correct.
Yeah.
So
I
there
do,
is
just to add on to that, yeah, I receive few calls from my friends who are in the leadership position also. What she said that it's overwhelming because the moment they wake up, it's like one Zoom meeting, another meeting, and then she said, I pity my kids because this is even worse. We are all at home, we are all confined. I just like, okay, just prepare a sandwich, okay, go and eat, and then I go back to the room and get my things done. And then the only time she stopped is at 11 o'clock at night. And I also have people calling and texting me saying that, now my bosses, okay, is like a hawk. It's just like looking, what are you doing? How come you're not preparing this? How come you're not doing that? So, they feel like being pressured is like a small child that they want to monitor. It's like micromanaging everything that you need to do. So this is the emotion coming from top leadership, from the management. Yeah. So how do you address that?
well,
Hello?
I
Hello?
think there are, I don't very that if you're an employer or it's not the time. All right. So if you are feeling insecure, which is normal, if you're feeling anxious, which is normal, if you're feeling fear, which is normal, first accept that's normal and calm down first, right? But if you're a parent at home, the parent needs to calm down because your children are going to pick up on your pressure and stress, right? So there's a lot happening and we need to acknowledge that there's a lot happening, right? Now, I know some people are going to say, but Malar, I have my bosses, hovering over me. But this is really again a very good time to reflect. Did you actually spend any time before this to have a relationship with your boss? Because if you haven't had that relationship, okay, it is all showing up now. I think a lot of real relationships are going to show up during tough times, right? The our true colors are going carrots, right? And say, if you do this, work longer hours. Malaysia is known to be one of the countries that works the hardest in Asia, but our productivity doesn't show, right? So we work very long hours, and all this time we have always been chasing the career and the carrot. Now, so what's really important for those in employer position to think about is, now you don't have a carrot to dangle. What are you going to do? Because this is where bosses also need to think, what sort of relationships did I invest in? Did I even invest in relationship? Because I think a lot of employers invested in power. A lot of them had bullying habits. And now you realize when you have nothing to offer, you can't bully people anymore, right? Now, on an employee's perspective, right, this is where we need to start thinking, we talk a lot about attitudes. Attitudes are the roots of almost all your life experiences, right? How did you look at your job in the past? Now, I've been in the training industry for 23 good years, right? In the 23 years, right, we had to pick up skills of what I call entertainment, right? You need to entertain people to learn, because people don't think learning is important, right?
Yes.
We had to do training in Malaysia is very different from other parts of the world, right? We're multi-skilled. Now, why? Because you are being judged not for your content, not for the benefit of your content, but how you can keep people awake, all right? Especially if they've been up all night on social media, right? Now, that was the past. We had to motivate and convince people why they had to change, why they need positive attitudes, right? Now, all of that is just going to go down the drain when we go back. Because the way you have carried yourself at work, your employers are now, if you have, especially have good employers, and if they had to make a choice, now they're going to look at your past inevitably, and as to how your attitudes were, how rigid, or were you did you have a growth mindset, and that's going to determine a lot of decision making. Now, this is not time to cry foul, okay? This is just karma. We pay for the choices we have made in the past, right? And so the next couple of weeks, if there's MCO, be grateful and ask yourself, reflect, be very honest, and ask yourself, what do I need to do to jumpstart myself so that when I present myself at work, my employer can see that I have changed, I'm willing to collaborate, and I'm thinking like a team. Because we need to survive, not I need to survive. And that's the only survival mode that is present for us in the future.
Yeah,
Sangeeta, if I can add on a little bit, you know, I think for employers, employees, a lot has been said out there. But I think one thing that I would urge employers and employees both to have at this moment is that sense of being fair. I think that fairness now has to kick in, because we cannot address every single employer and employee there, because we really don't know what happens in an organization. What I hear employees complaining, and what probably is going on in an organization, in a university, in a factory, in any, you know, office that you have, it's probably different. And if you listen to an employer, what the employer says about the employee is also not accurate, or not 100%, because maybe their expectations are different, their demands are so much higher than what the employee can produce. So at this moment, the word fairness has to kick in. Fairness in the sense that employees now have to be very, very fair. I wouldn't encourage, neither would I support any employer to automatically have this in mind, that look, we are going to cut, heads are going to roll when we go back. Okay, that should be the last on that list of things that you plan to do, you want to do. If possible, that should be like your in a football match, there's some substitutes there, so probably that should be a substitute. I would not encourage that. Why? Simply because when you were having good times, your employees were the people who helped you make that every single dollar, helped you make that profit, and brought you up to where you are today. Okay, so if you need to bite the bullet and, you know, have lower profits, so be it. But again, we're talking about different organizations, different structures in organizations. You may be top heavy, you may be, you know, bottom heavy. So again, a person should look into the entire picture and see how fair can I be, knowing that this is not just one person going to go through this. The entire world is going to go through this. We are talking about an economic depression. We're not talking about just people being depressed there. The entire economy is depressed.
Yes.
Yeah. So from an employee's point of view, we also have to be fair. Okay. So if you need to take a pay cut, if you need to do a little bit extra, if you need now to, you know, contribute in some other way, multitask, etc., I think this is, you know, the good time to sacrifice a little bit, because don't forget, for years you have been having a good job. Don't forget, for years you have, you know, benefited from all the allowances, all the, you know, end of the year, what you call it, you have your sessions of going abroad, all your benefits, you know, so you have, both sides have enjoyed good things before. Okay. So in short is you've had good times. You've had, it's not that you have not had. So now you're going to go in to not so good times. I don't want to use the word bad times, although it's going to be, right? But you know, it's very different depending on the industry, again, like I said, because not all industries are going to go down. You will find industries that are going to pick up. So if you're talking about supermarkets, I would say, look, I don't think they're really going to go down. In fact, when you open doors, they are going to be one of the first, line of people out there who's going to, strike bingo. So you will find there are industries, okay? You talk about medical industry, you talk about education industry, although we are looking at people cutting down in terms of numbers in payments, in what kind of courses that they are going to take, the expensive ones, expensive universities. But those who are doing online, okay, when we speak to people, we know those who are doing online training, those who are doing, a lower scale training for a bigger mass group, they will benefit, because a lot of people out there are going to say, look, I realized throughout this MCO that I don't know a lot of things, that I need to go back to school, that I need to go back and, and upskill if only I had those additional multi-skills that, now everyone is talking about, I would have benefited. Because you go back and, like Mala says, sell yourself and say what you can do. And actually, what can you do? That's a good question to ask yourself. In what way are you going to go back and contribute to the organization? In what way are you going to contribute back to the industry, to the society? So these are the few things that both parties have to, adhere to. And again, I would emphasize the word, fairness. So I think we've got to be fair all around. It's not about what the employees should do and shouldn't do, the employer should do and shouldn't do, what is right, what is wrong. Who are we to say what is right and what is wrong? Because we are not the employers who are paying salary at the end of the month. Neither are we the employees who probably have 20 mouths to feed, not just one person.
Yes.
So I think this is a lot of time needs to be taken into putting this into place, into reaction of both parties and understanding, which is why I use the word brutal conversations just now. I think that brutal, open conversations need to take place from now until, and a more brutal conversation need to take place at your town hall, or when you go back between employers and employees. And like I said, if you have moderators, bring moderators in. If you have HR consultants, bring HR consultants in, etc. Don't think about the money. Lots of people want to do it for free, or just want to come and sort some things out for you. You have 3 ladies here, they might actually go down to your organization and help you. Okay, use the other 2, but then people might actually, people are already asking. So, no, I'm offering on your behalf. I'm sure you're very kind to do it. But I have been, personally, I've been getting calls to say, how do I tell my employees I'm going to, because, at a certain point when you are so used to dealing with, MDs and chairmen and company, heads, the question that people are asking in our group chats and people who call me say, how do I tell my employees I'm going to have to let some of them go?
Yeah.
And my question is, why are you making that decision so fast? Is that what it has come to, or have you not thought about everything else? And I personally know that that organization can afford a good 1 year at least. You're probably going to take 1 or 2 steps back in terms of your profitability, at your bottom line. But I don't see that call being made at this moment to say. Neither am I seeing, I'm also hearing employees who say, I'm going to go to Jabatan Tenaga Kerja, I'm going to go to the Labour Department, I'm going to go. Again, I'm going to tell you, this is not the right call at this moment, because I will tell you, on behalf of Jabatan Tenaga Kerja, I'm a HR person at the end of the day, and I speak to them, and they are saying that at this point, they are related to Malabili, because they are having a lot of empathy for employers, not employees. So be careful if you're thinking of, all this. But like I said, this is not something that's right on top of the list. This should be right at the bottom of the list. On top of the list is now, what can both parties do? Some compromise that both parties can understand, because like I said, this is the first in the world. You're not the only one going through this. Okay, so the entire world is going through this change, not just, few of us here who's on this platform today. So I think you got to look at this not just as a, you know, big picture, but this huge thing that's going to go on, and it's not going to be solved in 1 week or 2 weeks or, you know, 3 weeks, or and you know, push button, it's going to say in 3 months we'll be okay. If somebody tells you in 3 months you'll be okay, I don't know whether I can use the word BS here, but honestly, yes.
Mm.
Okay, because it's not going to happen.
Yeah, another thing also, when you have that conversation, right? And from the beginning of the session, from Monday up to now, I always repeat myself by saying nothing personal.
Yeah.
Okay, when I say nothing personal, it's like, you know, sometimes when people say something, the first thing will impact us is the emotional part, where we think, oh, you know, I have elderly, I have kids, I have wife who is not working, you know, I have so many things, and I'm the sole breadwinner. And people will just jump into conclusion and make it like, you know, it's me. Okay, even though when someone sharing, or when someone is explaining, they're not it's not directly to you, but you will feel it, because all this trap and emotion, all this uncertainty, all this fear and all this stuff will be out. So when you have that nothing personal, meaning you are open. When you are open, you can see a lot of possibilities. And when you can see possibilities, then you can relate. Okay, will this assist me? Will this, you know, something that I need to stop, something I need to continue, something that I need to, you know, reevaluate. And I also mentioned about the 3-second rule, you know, reflect, reevaluate, and react. Because, you know, when someone tells us something and we just jump into conclusion, at the end of the day, you know, it might not go towards what you want. So you need to be open. You need to understand that, see, we are all in this together. It's not only employee, it's not only my family. It's like Dato' Ella was saying, it's everywhere. And earlier in our few sessions, you know, Dr. Hazli was saying and all that, it's us. We are in this together, and it's the entire ecosystem. So you need to address. So I have from Amina, not being alone in this unprecedented journey is definitely reassuring, that we have many around us to support, share experiences, and learn from. Like over here, compromise on the part of the various parties is key. Striking the balance is important between people and business. Yes, the balance. So you need to address each other. It's not only, you know, it's me. The sense of purpose is where we give to others, how we compromise with others. So you need to understand that. Malar, anything you want to add?
Oh, I want to add so many things.
Okay, not too much, one at a time, okay?
Okay.
So she might have some questions. Yeah.
Sorry. You know, you were talking about not taking it personal. I will take an opposite approach.
Mm-hmm.
Siapa makan chili dia rasa pedas lah,
Right?
Yeah. And I think when you rasa pedas, you should be proud of yourself that your senses are still working, right?
That you're feeling the pedasness.
Yes.
Yeah. That means your conscience, you have not put your conscience into a coma, right? Because some people have put their conscience into a coma where you can tell them whatever, but they don't feel it. So in fact, if you terasa, I actually think you have hope, because you know you are reflecting upon your own thinking, feeling, and behavior, number one. Number two, this is what I do, and I find it extremely useful, and that's why I believe in emotional intelligence. This is a crucial time for emotional intelligence in practice, right? Now, what do I mean by that? A lot of times when I get people sent to my class for emotional intelligence, right? Now, people think that emotional intelligence is either not being emotional, right? And usually they'll send all these emotional people like me to class and say, don't be emotional, which is, I think is pure rubbish, right? Because if you're not emotional, you're not human. So when your emotions get stirred, they are telling you about the wounds, especially negative emotions. I want you to imagine, you know, if you have a wound and someone accidentally taps it on the space where you're hurting, it would be painful. But not taking it personal is to know that the wound was already there.
Yes, correct.
This person has just triggered it at the right place. Be grateful because the person has brought about awareness that you have a wound. Now, what you need to do is go and heal your wound first, right? So our negative emotions that we experience now, I mean, I have been teaching, training emotional intelligence. Does it mean I don't have wounds? That's not true, right? We continue. We are always work in progress. So you take your emotions and say, you know, I'm wounded. I realize you didn't wound me, but I'm wounded. I recognize my wound. Now, what do I need to do to heal it? And I think that's a very, very important space, because now we have space to heal, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's
And
easier. It's easier right now because there's a
you have,
lot of outlet out there, you know,
yeah,
support out there.
yeah,
Correct.
go and get the right,
Yeah,
right
I was just
support.
going to say that. I was
Yes.
just going to say, go and get the right type of people to support, you
Yeah,
know, because there's a lot of people with some, negative thoughts and, who's trying to bring other people down at this point of time and moment. And I've heard about it. And I think that's really very, very pathetic to, to be doing that, to say, yeah, I think, you're going to lose your job. Yes, you have every right to feel very, very upset and angry with your employer who's making you do three projects instead of two, that kind of thing. So, yeah, so I agree with, Mala 100% on this. Go
so
ahead, yeah.
just one more thing, because I'm looking at balance. I think we spoke about fairness, we spoke about balance. I think what we need to recognize that balance doesn't sit in the middle.
Yep.
We have to shift the balance now.
Mm.
And for us to find the right balance for what is working for a common group of people that we care in an organization is to have what I will call a crucial conversation, a vulnerable conversation where we put our emotions out. And because we need to tell, you might think I'm in management, but I just want you to know that I would love to make a sacrifice, but this is my situation at this point of time. All right. We need to evoke compassion in other people, right? And for that to happen, we need to put our emotions out. And for that, you need to be very courageous, because there are a lot of
Yes.
people who are judgmental. So your balance has to shift. Now, the other thing is that I've learned in communication is compromise is a mini lose-lose. Yeah. I think I'm very afraid of the word compromise, because when you compromise, you feel like you have lost out. All right. And alternative thinking for that is, now what would be the best win for you and best win for me, given the current situation, is one for us to think about. Because you want to come out of this as a winner, not as a mini loser, right? So please do think about having a win-win. How can I make you win? And at the same time, I don't want to lose. Now, the other word, and today's Good Friday, is a lot of people talk about sacrifice. Yeah, a lot of times sacrifice is seen as I'm giving away something that is precious to me,
Yes.
right? But I also want to offer another alternative of sacrifice. When you give away something that is precious for you, the cause you're giving away for is sacred enough, is worthy enough, right? And I think we need to communicate the reason I'm giving this part away is because I'm putting you as a very important person in my life. I'm putting your goals as an important outcome for me. I think the choice of words really important, because I don't like people making sacrifices for me, because I feel indebted. But if they make it sacred and say, this is really an act of love, because a lot of act of love has become a return in gratitude nowadays. And so the choice of language, and what do you mean by what you say? Okay, I'm going to shut up. Thank you.
Okay, Gita, I think, talking about Mala's win-win just now,
Yes, yes.
Mala mentioned something about, both one with a win-win. I think one way to do this win-win, I would encourage, and, I'm advocating out there, is not, besides having this, open conversation. I don't think it's the word I is no longer existing in the next, or should be existing in the next couple of weeks, couple of months, and couple of years. I think it's all about inclusivity, which is now we. Yes. So let's talk about we. It's we. And how are we going to go ahead and, sort out our whatever that's when we talk about an employer-employee, because the conversation today is on employer and employee, we talk about people who are in businesses, regardless whether small business, big business, but SMEs, etc. Whatever it is, we deal with a group of people. Yes. So even if you are a sole proprietor or a one-man show, you are going to deal with people. You do have business out there. You do have opportunities out there, which now seem to be, either gone or very, very scarce, in that sense that maybe people are not hiring, people are not going to give you that job that they promised, etc. So we, meaning now, I think one of the things that we can actually tell people is, everyone asks me, what do I go back and say? I tell you this. The first thing that people need to do is to say, look, we don't know. Be honest and say, we don't know. All right. But together, we will sort it out.
Yes.
Together, we are going to figure all this out, and let's take the step forward and see what is it we can do best for us. So that from I, we go to we, to go to us. Because I think when we say us, and each one of us have to use, like Mala says, the word sacrifice, I think you actually have won. It's not just a win-win, but you have just won, because from an employee's point of view, I saw that the employer also had to sacrifice. From the employer's point of view, I also figured that the employee needs to sacrifice. All right. But in order to do that, to reach that win-win, won-won situation, you need to first start with taking that I, the company, I, the MD, I as the chairman. Let's not have that conversation starting with I. It's about, look, we are in this predicament now. Okay, so we are in this predicament now, and we need to figure this out together. So how are we going to move forward and figure out what's best, not just for the company, but what's best for you as that employee, what's best for the team, what's best for me as an employer, or as an individual, as the MD, as a whatever. But it comes back to we, and how is it going to benefit us? Because at the end of the day, if you're going to hold on to this win-win word, I think at the end of the day, in order to have that win-win, you got to the only way is you're going to survive is to have also that words we, win-win, and at the end of the day, us, we benefit.
Yeah.
So okay, so have
good.
that in mind. Because I think I like the word sacrifice. I totally agree, and it's you are at this point where you need to sacrifice. I don't think you're going to, go out and say, look, I'm not letting go. I've got rights as an employee. This is not the time, like I mentioned just now. Yeah.
And like what you mentioned, that about we, change the we to I. This is what, in most of my program, and when we talk about personality and all that, different personality, they have different approach, different ways, in terms of communication, in terms of leadership, listening, and how they do the task. So by understanding yourself first, by knowing yourself, by knowing what can you do better, what you need extra time. I'm not talking about strength and weaknesses. Yeah, I'm talking about preferences. I'm talking about something that I'm comfortable doing it, something that I like to do it, versus something that I can do but I'm not comfortable doing it, right? So when we understand our own personality, when we understand ourselves, then it's easier for us to see that, hey, my team are diverse. They complement me. So when they complement me, the word I will shift to we, because now I know that there are people who know more things than I do. There are people who are good and they can do stuff that for me, I'll take a longer time to do it. So when you have this thought of this openness, right, and say that, yes, you can compliment me, show me how, and do it together, that's where you shift from I to we. And when you go into we, now you need to look at, normally people look at the sense of ownership when they talk about department. So I'm in this department, so I need to work with this. Even though we know sometimes another department, what they say is the right thing. We just can't accept that. So you need to understand that you are not working by just this department. An organization need to work hand in hand with every department. You are not standalone. You know, a finance needs someone to look into the compliance, the SOP, the admins, the IT department. You all work together, but people don't seem to understand that. Okay, so when another thing, when we talk about compromise, yes, we compromise, but most of the time, in individual, in people, what do they do? Oh, I compromise this, I sacrifice that, but it's not a meaningful sacrifice. They sacrifice in the sense of, I need to get something back. They sacrifice in the sense of, you know, I need, there's a certain expectation. So that is why you need to understand, is your sacrifice valid and is it sincere and genuine? Because if you just say that I'm sacrificing this, you know, I'm sacrificing my time here, I'm sacrificing my time there, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, but look inside, is it something that you really want to sacrifice? Is it something that, you know, you don't expect anything in return? And
what's wrong with sacrificing? That's another question.
Yeah, because most of the time when people say I sacrifice, if I'm hearing it from my client, when they say, you know, I sacrifice all my life to get things. Yes, because when they say I sacrifice all my life to get things, I expect them to understand me. I expect them to give this to me. So the expectation. So your sacrifice, yes, for the good deed, but is it genuinely that you really do out of love? Do you really do out of something that I will not get it back? You know, sacrificing is where you do it genuinely, you know, with a purpose, with a mission that you want to help. You can't say that it's like stress, you know, even though you don't have stress, you just want to be in, you know, you want to be included. You say, I have stress. It's the same word. Sometimes people use the word overwhelmingly. The purpose is not there anymore. You got what I mean? So we need to understand, yes, you sacrifice, you get things done, you with the organization, see how can we work together as a team. Rather than, you know, you just saying things and then it will be out of the context. Yeah. Anything you want to add, Atok?
No, I think, you know, when I don't know what went on before in terms of how you felt when you sacrifice and what you think of, you know, what you thought of in expectations or in return. But realistically, we have to be very, very realistic now. We got to think smart.
Yeah.
When you worry smart. You think smart.
Yes.
You know, because obviously there's a lot of message. Bad noise, sad noise, you know, you hardly hear happy noise. But then again, it's all sorts of noise. So now it's your time to filter all this noise and see what works for you, what, you know, doesn't work for you. Right? So when we talk about sacrifice now, whether you have done it before in whatever intentions that you have done it before, I'm going to put that aside because that's the past. Yes. So I don't want to go back to that past, right? So I'm now talking about now. Currently, what's the situation now? And what is it going to be in future? So I understand now, and everyone needs to understand that you need to, you know, you need to sacrifice. Forget about what you're going to get in return, because obviously with the economic climate, obviously with everything that's going on, you don't need to get anything in return. You just need to count your blessings. What you're going to get in return is that you have got a daily life with counting your blessings, that you still have a job, probably, even if you have to take a slight, you know, cut. You are able to provide, you've got, you know, somewhere to go, you've got people, you've got friends, you've got people to reach out, etc., that, you know, we're not you know, in a war or something like that. And you know, so as long as you can come to reality, you know, reality kicks in, sets in, that it's going to change. The world has changed. It's not going to change. The world has changed. All right. So now we make the best of what the new change is all about. They say it's going to go back to normal. This is normal. Okay, this is normal today, that you have to learn Zoom and Skype and do everything online. This is normal. And when you go back, is the new normal. The new normal is, yes, you got to work more. Yes, you got to contribute more. Yes, you're going to have some conversations you do not like to have conversations, those type of conversations. But I'm sorry to say you're going to have to face those conversations, regardless from an employer point of view or an employee point of view. Okay, so you're going to go back to the new normal, and the new normal brings about change. So you learn to adapt to this change. We can adapt because we are agile. We are all born with a positive DNA. Okay, no one is born in this world with negative DNA. So therefore, you learn to agile. You learn to be agile. You learn to adapt. So when you adapt, it comes with these changes. These changes may demand for you to sacrifice.
Yeah.
So it leads from one to another. If you straight away say, will you be able to do some sacrifices? You'll be like, but I've got family. No, I need to pick up my kid at 6. No, we're not talking about that. We're talking about firstly, the understanding that you may need to give. Don't forget this win-win. If you want to win-win and won-won, sorry to say, guys, this is the way to go. You know, you got to give to get.
Yeah.
Okay, so don't forget, you've got to give to get.
Yeah. So that is why people need to understand when they use the word sacrifice, they need to go down deeper. And they need to understand, where is it coming from? How am I going to do it? Because all this while, majority of people, when they say certain things, it always back to expectation. I want this back. I want that back. So we need to go down deeper to understand yourself, to understand how can I contribute to organization? How can I contribute to my team? How can I contribute to others? So this is how. Malar, because we're going to reach to the end. Any last words you want to say?
Yeah.
Last words, huh?
The last 2 sentences cannot.
Boleh lah.
So 2 things comes to my mind. I think we got to be very cautious because human beings are selfish at core, full stop. I think we're trying to beat that. I think people need to know that we all strive to be differentiated individuals while integrating with others for best survival, which is where all these words of sacrifice and all of it. So we're looking for the right balance between me being very unique self and integrating with people. So I integrate very well with people who don't judge me because they allow me to be myself. So conversation needs to bring that too in, yeah. But the one conversation I think we're not having and we should have is that when you see a lot of negativity going on, I think this is where if you want to empathize, you need to understand that we have a right to grieve because a part of us will be lost in the space, right? I mean, I've always done to know that, and I've built my skills over 23 years, right? And can you imagine that after 23 years, you need to reinvent yourself if you still want to do what you love to do, or if you have to do it for a living. Now, I think I have a right to grieve, right? So a lot of us who have invested a lot of time in who we are will grieve a part of us that is going to be lost in this space, right? Grieve and get over it quickly, because after your grief, only then you can rebuild your life to be resilient and to be agile and to build new skills and have a growth mindset. My last piece. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. So, so we reached to the end of the session today. Okay. So, just to let you guys know that we're going to have psychological first aid. Okay. Those of you who feels that you want to learn more about, addressing issue, how to look at things, how to assist people who is going through situation or scenarios, I'm going to post maybe sometime next week or maybe this weekend, right, for a session. So I will share it to all of you. And remember to always keep strong. Remember to be nothing personal. Remember that, understand that it's not I, it's we. Understand that, we are all in this together. It's not only one of us go through this, yeah? And also, I'd like to thank Dato' Alia and Malar for your time, okay, and your session. It's good that we are sharing this from different perspective, all right? And reinvent yourself, okay? And have a growth mindset. We always have this, this mindset of, I'm enough. You are not enough. You need to move and go and move and go on. Okay, you need to develop, you need to grow. So don't ever tell that, oh, I'm enough as it is. No, because when someone else out there, they do better, and then you start comparing, is a whole another scenario and issues. Yeah. So for all of you, remember, reach out, speak up. We have Befrienders, we have Snehem, we have Mercy Malaysia, Lembaga Counselor, Counseling, Talia Dekasih, Talia No, and all that. Please reach out. And
you have Mala, you have Sangeeta.
You have Dato' Alia.
Prepare realistically, because you know it's I mean, we have to be real with this current situation, so prepare realistically. You know, move forward. You can't move backwards, so move forward. You don't want to move backwards. Move forward, prepare realistically. You know, understand the situation. I think whatever you need to know about COVID is all out there, and you already know. So don't worry about numbers and figures and how many people are dying throughout the entire world. You know, be selfish at this moment and think about what you are going to do when in the next, you know, coming weeks and coming months when you need to go back. Think about you, your family, your job, your career, your, you know, your entire you and your environment. It's nothing, there's nothing wrong with you wanting to be selfish and make those plans for you. Because at the end of the day, don't forget, you know, it's you who's, you know, it's your rice bowl, it's you who's going to march forward, and you are the one who have to stay positive. Most of you have to stay you know, well and good, because at the end of the day, this is the job that you have, you know, been very, very passionate about all these years. And at the, you know, this is your bread and butter. So for all the, everyone out there who are employers and employees, you know, strike that balance. Yes, that balance will not be a balance as in the Dutching, as in the, you know, the scale, but as and when, you know, learn to compromise, you know, have open, brutal conversations, please.
Yes. And for all of us, later 5 p.m. there's a new announcement. We don't know whether are we still staying in or can we go out or being extended. So please be prepared. If we need to extend the MCO, you know, there will be a lot more. There will be a change in the way people react, the way people think, because the more you confine, the more people want to do things.
Right.
The more you say you don't do this, the more, you know, people want to go out. So please brave yourself. Please be strong, and you know, all the best to all of you.
Start thinking differently. Start thinking differently. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Malar.
Thank you, everybody. Have a good Friday. Yes.
Thank you, everybody.
Yes. Okay. And happy Easter for Sunday.
Okay. So have a lovely day. Enjoy yourself within first, and all the best. So take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.